Hey, welcome to another and long-awaited, at least for us anyway, episode of A Real Point of View. We've kind of been on hiatus out there trying to get our individual lives together and also trying to focus on family, and which is one of the more important things in our life as our life is family, friends, and acquaintances. And for me personally, focusing on my life, my family a little bit, enjoying the stories that my family are telling me about their adventures, and just trying to refocus, I think is probably the better way of saying it. And so, with that being said, welcome back, my cohorts here. I've got the movie maven herself, Miss Karen D, and the guy who doesn't pick a bad film, Mr. Steve,
Allegedly.
as Karen says, allegedly. As Steve says, he's okay.
He's trying. I think he's making a gesture like I think I'm being threatened.
I
Okay.
think that's a small electrocution.
Yeah, I think it is very small. It's like a little tickle almost. Yes.
Yeah, shock therapy, little tickle.
Well, I'm just glad to be back in the saddle again, guys. And today we're going to talk about film as we always do here on A Real Point of View. But this time we're going to talk about anticipation, the types of films that we're looking to see in hopes that you too will be as excited as we are about some of the films that are coming out. And not just coming out, maybe even some that are already out we just haven't seen yet, but we're longing to see, and maybe give you just a short, brief example as to why. So I've got a few films here, maybe four films that I'm really looking to see, maybe five actually. But I'll talk about a few of those, maybe not all of them. We want to all get our ability to talk to you about the films that we want to see and the films that we're anticipate and hope that, again, you'll be just as thrilled as we are to try to look at them. So, without further ado, let me just throw some of the films out that I'm looking to talk about, at least a little bit about today. I've got the Black Panther, I've got The Foreigner, The Snowman, and American Assassin. So those are the four major films I want to see. And then I want to take a trip in the past that is connected to the future here, or to the present. And that's the movie It, the Stephen King novel about a clown. And if you've listened to any of our previous episodes, you know I'm just not into clowns. I think the only clown I like is Homie the Clown from In Living Color from back in the day, and even him I didn't like all that much. So,
Because homie don't play that.
I
homie,
love
and I think
Homie.
that was the only part. Homie don't play that. It just gave me a sense of understanding that you don't have to be bullied, even by little kids. So that was that was my thing in the past about clowns. I just never, even when my parents were able to take us to the circus. Even when I went to the circus in grammar school with the class, everything was cool except in Chicago we had Bozo Circus, and the clown was Bozo the Clown, and he was kind of rude, so I wasn't really liking him that much, and I think that's kind of what helped uh, fuel the phobia of clowns, and then I just started seeing it, clowns in the news, like John Wayne Gacy was a clown, and that wasn't
Oh
good
yeah.
because some people were missing that they were found, but they were found and they were still missing. If you understand what I'm saying, so the light of them was no longer here. So I was no big fan of clowns, and then It came out, and you're like, whoa, hey, it's a movie about this crazy clown who's doing crazy things with what again? Kids. And so I wasn't, that wasn't good about that. So what I want to do is I want to give myself the opportunity to get over my phobia. We were talking about phobias a little earlier. Get over my phobia of It and watch the original version, and then watch the most recent version that came out this year, and compare the two, and then maybe down the road, this month, hopefully, since this is Halloween month, and of course today is Friday the 13th.
No, it is.
Yeah, it's almost not, thank goodness.
Yeah.
But I'm a man of faith, so those things don't bother me.
Sure, they don't. Allegedly.
As the microphone moves.
All right.
I didn't touch it.
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
As it happens, you don't have to touch it. Not on Friday the 13th.
Right.
Yeah. Something strange. Okay, no, okay. Steve had me going there a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, but so I'm gonna do that. Maybe, like I said, maybe down the road this month we'll take a look at it, or movies that are remade from horror films in the past that have been revitalized. Maybe we'll look at that as a theme, or just it by itself and just talk about it and Stephen King and why keeps coming up with these brilliant novels that are made into these horrifically wonderful movies, and why is his brain wired like that? That's a good
And
well, he
and-
lives in Maine for one.
And why you can't write a decent ending. I hate to burst everybody's bubble, but his endings are terrible.
Hey, you're so freaked out by the other part of you're not even paying attention to the ending. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
The fact that you're paying attention, Steve, is you found out that he's a serial not ender good weller.
At least you made it to the end of a Stephen King novel. I'm still trying to get through Under the Dome because it just, oh my God, it just drove me crazy. It's like murder after murder. It's like, okay, can we move on from the murdering? And I just had to put it down.
Well, all I got to say is I used to love red. Red's my favorite color until I see these floating balloons. And so, lately, I don't know, I'm kind of leaning toward green right now. And as a favorite color, sorry, red. I used to like red, except now I'm seeing this. So anyway, with that being said, so those are my movies. I'm thinking I really want to take a chance at seeing. So one of the actors who's really stepped up lately and is in a lot of films, and seems to be his stock in Hollywood seems to be growing day by day, is this Chadwick Boseman. Now, recent past, he did a film called Get On Up?
Yep.
And that was where he was doing a biopic of James Brown. Well, I wasn't giving him a lot of credence pre Get On Up, because I was thinking, man, he looks nothing like him. And, it just didn't, I wasn't feeling him, ladies and gentlemen. So then I said, again, I'm going to take a chance and look at this film, because I owe it to you, owe it to me, to get over my phobias and get over my, my craziness. And I watched the film and I really enjoyed it. And I thought he did a superb job. So now it made me more excited about seeing other films that he's in. So I found this gem of a film. And the name of the film is Message from the King. It's one of those in-between films. Basically, let me backstep for a second. The movie that I want to talk about is the Black Panther. Now, the Black Panther is one of the Avengers, so he's a superhero in this film. And it gives you the storyline of what his family is like. Here's a guy, he's not coming from the point of what people stereotypically think of people. He's not poor. He's not from the inner city. This dude's a bazillionaire. He's a prince. And he lives in this country that's his country, and what their whole essence is technology. They're technologically sound. So basically, taking Silicon Valley and putting it in this African country called Wakanda, and everybody there is a genius, and he's one of the geniuses there. Well, he did this film. And they're filming the Black Panther and everything, but then he did this segue film that was just kind of out there. It came out this year called Message from the King, and I'm gonna tell you, that message is solid. That message is solid. It's one of the better films I've seen, and it was one of those films that went straight to video, didn't end up in the theaters. And this film was on the scale from 1 to 10, I give this film an 8.5.
Wow. You hardly ever do that.
I know, and I've seen this film twice. And I wasn't disappointed either time. And you know how you look at another film, you look at a film and then you see it one time, and then every time you see it, there's a nuance. Well, that's what happened with this film. I've seen it twice, found something that I didn't really understand or catch from the previous viewing. And it just made me like it even more. I think I started with an 8, ended up with an 8.5. So that in itself says that it grew in stature with me with regard to a better understanding of what's going on. But I'll be honest with you, it's pretty cut and dry. I think what's cool about this film is that you don't understand the ramifications of the king in this movie, and until probably a third of the movie's gone. Well, no, not even that much. 1/5 of the movie's gone, and then you know, and then the rest of the movie is just dominated, and then it's a surprise ending. So I really like this film. So with that being said, let my cohorts get to talking here, so I don't hog the host show. But I think Black Panther, going there real quickly, is one of those movies, and the Marvel franchise is such that it's a really exciting time for Marvel comics, Marvel television, and especially Marvel in film. And the Avengers have been no less short of any excitement, no less short of any good script writing. And I'm hoping and I'm looking forward to the Black Panther being the same. And I think Chadwick Boseman, he's the man. And I really like the character, his character in this. And last thing I want to say is the different people in this movie is just ridiculous. Sterling Brown, who just won a Golden Globe for This Is Us, he's in this movie. Martin Freeman, the guy who played Bilbo in The Hobbit, is in this film. We've got Angela Bassett, and she's just been, a stellar actress from the get. Forrest Whitaker. I mean, this film is laced with just Peter Luonga is the Oscar. She's in this film. I mean, this is a wonderful cast of characters in this film. And again, just like producers and directors of the past, we have a cameo in this film, like Hitchcock in his films, and what's his name who wrote Hattie and His Sisters?
Woody Allen.
Like Woody Allen. Well, we have Stan Lee, who is the creator of Spider-Man and one of the early people who put together this wonderful Marvel universe. He has his little cameo in this film too. And so with that being said, Black Panther, I think it's a must-see, and I'm going to see it as soon as I can. So who wants to go next? Karen, why don't you go ahead
Okay.
and give us some information about your films, and I'll stop talking.
Okay. Well, always love to hear you talk, Rick, because it's you always bring up something interesting. I have nowhere near 4 films on my list. I have way more than that. So I will just try to do a rapid fire sort of visual. Now, I mean, it's sort of rapid fire go through. Now, you mentioned Chadwick Boseman. He's actually in a film that opens this weekend called Marshall, where he plays Thurgood Marshall.
That's
in
right.
a big screen biopic treatment of Thurgood Marshall as a crusading lawyer for the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. I really want to see that because I think Chadwick Boseman, again, he doesn't look anything like the actual Thurgood Marshall, but he's like biopic man. So, there you go.
And he's I will interject this one thing if you don't mind. He embodies the character though in such a way that you don't care.
Right, exactly. He's really, really good at that. And a far departure from, like, say, Jackie Robinson or James Brown. Another movie coming out October 20th is Geostorm with Gerard Butler. Total guilty pleasure because I love disaster movies, especially when Gerard Butler's in them because I get to see abs. Murder on the Orient Express, maybe. Just because it's Kenneth Branagh and because Leslie Odom Jr., who starred on Broadway as Aaron Burr in Hamilton, also has a role in this movie, although I have no idea what that role is. Chappaquiddick, November 22nd, because it's about time. I think we might be in a place where we can actually see a big screen treatment of what actually happened to Chappaquiddick with Mary Jo Kopechne and Teddy Kennedy. Back in the 70s, just for those people who may not know, Mary Jo Kopechne was an aide of Kennedy's who died mysteriously on the Chappaquiddick Bridge in Massachusetts. She was riding home with Senator Ted Kennedy, or I think he was senator at the time. Was that senator?
It was a senator.
He was senator. But anyway, she was riding home with him. Somehow she ended up drowned. And somehow Teddy Kennedy didn't know how that happened. And somehow he wasn't brought to trial or charged with any crime. And we still don't know why. Anyway, okay, Star Wars: The Last Jedi opens December 15th. Need I say more? All I See Is You is opening October 27th. And this, I think, this is like one of those ethical quandary films that I just have a soft spot in my heart for. This is about a woman who's blind her entire life. She gets married to the love of her life while she's blind, and then she regains her sight. And that changes the relationship in very unexpected ways with her husband. Not all of them, you know, favorable, I ascertain. Another movie, The Square, opening October 27th, because it's a satire about the art world, and we don't see a lot of movies like that. November 3rd, Thor Ragnarok opens. Definitely want to see that. November 13th, LBJ, a big screen treatment of LBJ is opening, starring Woody Harrelson. Now, Bryan Cranston, I think, was nominated for an Emmy and may have even won the Emmy for an HBO movie called All the Way, which was a biopic of LBJ, starring also Anthony Mackie as Martin Luther King. It was an extremely good movie. That said, I will be very interested to see what Woody Harrelson does with the character of LBJ, who's frankly just larger than life. And just, I mean, you could do several movies about him because, I mean, he lived a relatively long time, but he just had such a huge impact on American politics, and in ways large and small, good and bad, in a lot of good ways. Roman J. Israel Esquire, November 13th, only because Denzel Washington is starring as Roman J. Israel Esquire. It's a movie about a lawyer. I have no idea what else it's about. Mudbound is opening November 17th, and that, well, I think is a very interesting movie because it's a movie that undertakes civil rights issues in the 1940s between farmers, African-American farmers and white farmers. They're sort of having these skirmishes that lead to much larger civil rights issues. And this has not been explored in movies to any satisfactory degree, in my opinion. So I'm interested to see how this is addressed. The Current War opens November 28th, and that's going to be very interesting. It's actually a movie about the invention of the electric light bulb and the race to do that between Thomas Alva Edison and Nikola Tesla, the same Tesla for whom the Tesla electric cars are named for.
And another interjection, I'm on Tesla's side.
Okay, well, he didn't win.
Always.
No, but
Spoiler alert,
my associate's degree is in electronics, and Tesla was the man. That's all I gotta say. Okay.
He is the man. He's totally the man. Yep. The Post opens December 22nd, and this is like a re-examination of the Watergate era as revealed by the Washington Post, focusing on Ben Bradley as the managing editor of the Washington Post and Katharine Graham, who was the publisher of the Post at the time. Instead of the reporters, we're focusing on the publisher and the managing editor and the decisions that they made leading to the revelations of Watergate and what was on the line for them. Because believe me, to run with that story took an immense amount of courage on their part, not just on the part of Carl Bernstein and Bob Woodward, but also on their parts. There was a huge amount at stake. So I'm very interested to see that movie from that standpoint. And then I will also just mention my picks for 2018. Proud Mary's coming out in January, and that's with Taraji P. Henson. And it's not about, the movie's not about Tina Turner. Proud Mary's about a woman detective and I don't know why she's named Proud Mary, but you know, anyway. I also want to see Black Panther for the reasons that Gregory mentioned. I want to see A Wrinkle in Time. That's a movie with directed by Ava DuVernay. Oprah Winfrey's in this movie, and she's an incredible actress. And I'm sure she's a producer. And I'm sure she's financing the movie. But anyway, it's this very fantastical treatment of story, and I just want to see what they do with it. Avengers Infinity War, for the reasons that Gregory stated. Robin Hood, another remake of Robin Hood, is coming out in 2018, but this one actually sounds decent. Steve's shaking his head. And then another movie. My last movie on my list is Widows. And the reason I want to see that is because Viola Davis is in it. And it's about these women who are typically in typical housewife roles. They're not supposed to say much or do much or anything. But when their husbands die, they are in the positions where they need to take control of their lives. And it's a period piece from that standpoint. So I want to see what they do with this. So those are my movies.
Cool.
Long list, but I can't wait to see all of them.
Yeah, I've got one or two that I'll mention at the end here, but I want to give Steve an opportunity to voice his conversation about some of his films. And I'm going to go back to some of the ones that I aforementioned as well. So,
I got a couple movies that I'm really interested in. One of them actually came out today.
Marshall.
What?
No, it's not that one. I'm sorry to disappoint you, Karen.
Was it the Piglets?
No,
the Piglets. That's what I thought.
Piglets. It feeds into my horror movie enjoyment of just movies that kind of have a good premise but fail to deliver. And I am very curious if this movie is going to deliver because it looks like it's going to be fun. It's called Happy Death Day.
Oh yeah. Another dark comedy.
It looks extremely dark.
Yeah, really.
But I feel like it's got a little just edginess to be able to help it deliver with her, repeating this day over and over again. Go out, watch the trailer. It looks really interesting for a horror movie. Sometimes you just kind of get the feeling that they're all like another movie that I want to see, Jigsaw, which comes out toward the end of the month. I am huge on the Saw movies because they have a plot, they follow it, they don't deviate from the ideas that they're going for, and they keep it easy to follow, but still have a bit of finesse to the mentality of it. It flows very well. Even though there's literally 3 movies that are the exact same movie, they're all just different perspective. If you can get away with that and do what they did, which is, really keep it cohesive and not jumble everything up and, change whatever continuity that you're going with, then you're doing a really good job as directors, as writers, and as the actors of continuing to move everything forward perfectly the way it should be, which I'm excited for Jigsaw because everything that they've done, in my opinion, the over-the-top gore factor, which, horror movies are kind of going for today because you can't really just freak anybody out on a small scale anymore like you could in the 70s and 80s and early 90s. But good job with that. I want to see Star Wars. I'm a bit of a finisher when it comes to series, and as long as I enjoy the first, the second, the third, then I'm going to keep watching movies as long as they're enjoying it, and they just do a good job. Everybody really appreciates, some people really, had things to say about The Force Awakens, but you can't argue it's a good movie, and right, they do a good job.
And the whole point is to continue, as you alluded to, Steve, that series. And so we got enough to get us a good idea of what's going on. And then the ending was enough for us to realize that it's going to continue. So I agree with you on that one.
It did its job, although I didn't think it was the strongest. I liked Rogue One much better. But it was still, I agree with you, it was a good movie.
Wow. Not going to argue. We don't have time for that.
I was agreeing with you.
No, you were agreeing with me, but you said Rogue One was better. Not going to argue. Going to leave that alone.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Anybody who's watched this show before, of course, Karen and Greg know, I am a Keanu Reeves fan. I like Keanu Reeves. I think he does a really good job. While I'm excited to see what they're going to do in John Wick 3, he's got a movie coming out called Replicas, which seems very, very interesting. And it does. It teeters on that sci-fi thriller aspect where this man who's a scientist ends up getting into a wreck with his family and everybody dies. And then you see him in the next scene and it's him, his wife, and they're having, a normal day and everything, is going ordinary. And then the trailer kind of gets a little topsy-turvy from there. I feel like Keanu Reeves has done a really good job with the movies that he's been doing here recently, dating back to the mid 2000s and just moving forward. And I feel like his acting is growing way far away and way in a better direction than how starting out of the character that he had to play.
Yeah, it's a true resurgence of Keanu Reeves. I think he got a little lost for a while in bad B movies, and I think I don't know what the impetus was, but I know one of those was John Wick, and I enjoyed the first one and the second one. I enjoyed the first one more, but I enjoyed the second one still enough to really be looking forward to the third one, like you alluded to, Steve. So, yeah, I'm on the bandwagon now.
I gotta see that.
Go ahead.
I gotta see that movie. Yeah. I still need to see that movie.
You're disappointing me, Karen. So disappointing.
It's on my list.
I can see those movies. Those movies.
Long list.
And it ain't synergy.
I feel a slight tickle.
But I got 2 more movies left.
All right, Steve, go for it.
Guilty pleasure. I want to see Pacific Rim Uprising.
I'm like, okay, I'm with Karen on this one. I haven't seen the first one yet. I want to see it, but I'm
so glad I haven't seen the first one.
It is. Greg, you like Godzilla movies. You like the big monster movies.
I like Godzilla movies.
This is a very it's ridiculous in its presentation. They understand their ridiculousness and they just go for it. But it's not so outside of thinking that, well, what's the point? That's not, I mean, as much as it is fantasy in the way that it does everything, it's still got a realm of logic to everything that they do, which makes you appreciate the movie. I saw a special the other day that was talking about the way the animatronics and the way the mechs move, the Jaegers as they call them, is something that large, something that towering would not move with speed. It would not move with like a grace or finesse. It would be slow and lumbering, and you would see a real look of power coming from behind that. And they take the time to meticulously do those things to make you feel that is something that you would naturally see that gigantic robot do, rather than in some things that they do today, like Transformers, where everything is they're moving quickly, they're not taking their time in that motion and flow. So I really appreciate it. Boyega, I believe is his name.
John Boyega.
John Boyega is actually the star in this movie. It's one of his, breakout, coming out on his own roles. And I'm really interested to see what they do with it. And the last movie, I want to see the new Gotti.
Oh, with John Travolta.
Now, this one's a little bit different than the one that was made in 96. The one that was made in 96 was really a perspective from Gotti. It followed Gotti the whole time. This one's actually a recounting by his son.
Oh,
So
that was kind of
you're still going to get the same story, but
mm-hmm.
it takes place over 3 decades. It deals with a lot of the home turmoil that
Right.
Gotti, his wife, when he becomes the Don of the Gambino family, and how it transitions, the interactions with his son more than the first movie, than the 96 movie had. So, and I feel like this could be a movie that could get John Travolta back, not on a kind of pedestal that he was on, but he's been doing a good job with smaller movies and not really big blockbusters. So I feel like this could be his bigger blockbuster that could make people, get back with him and see him as, the bona fide actor that he really is.
Yeah,
But
he's good.
I guess he's an excellent actor, but I think his sort of stepping back from movie roles is really, I mean, I think that's something he did because he doesn't have anything to prove anymore, really.
Of course.
And he, I mean, he's older. I think he's picking things far more carefully, which is why he's doing some of these smaller films. Like he can lend his star power to some of these smaller indie films and get them like on people's radar. And he doesn't have to work that hard anymore. I'll be very interested to see what he does with this movie. And I think it'll be interesting to see if this Gotti film can be like a little more nuanced than the typical mobster film is. I've always marveled at this sort of just unquestioned characterization in these mob films. We have these people who do these horrible things, and yet they're the most loving, caring family men on the face of the planet. I'm like, that doesn't even make sense. That math doesn't add up. How can you kill everybody? How can you kill everybody, but you have time to play baseball with your son and you have time to play dolls with your daughter? I don't think that works. So there had to have been like major family trauma and turmoil. If you're going to be like the Don, I mean, I don't know how you have like a happy family life with that. That I would like to see actually explored in, a truthful way on screen.
Well, it's a good measure of that if we go back a little bit to one of the most stellar series of films that are out there is The Godfather.
Right.
We see The Godfather and we're thinking, he's the Don and everything, but his sons, their interactions, the family members, it was a lot of chaos. It was a lot of infighting for power.
Right.
And so those are the kind of things that make sense to us in a more realistic situation. But yeah, the hero worship thing, I get that in the sense of what people see outwardly is the power. They see the cars, they see the houses, and they see all these materialistically elaborate things. But they don't understand that if it wasn't for breaking that guy's arm or chopping off that guy's head, these things wouldn't exist. And so they're looking very much in through the window and not truly seeing. They see mannequins and not the real people,
Right.
So,
But I also think, I mean, to me, I guess what I wonder about, I mean, I think The Godfather might be the exception or one of the exceptions, because it does sort of at least hint at those. I mean, it hints at, or not more, does more than hint. It's sort of, that's part of that book. And that's part of that story. And if you read the book, as I did, the book by Mario Puzo, then it really goes into major detail about all of the family interactions. But generally speaking, I guess to me in films, you just have this, it's like the person who is callous enough to take not just one life, but many lives, or to torture somebody, or to, I don't know, whatever, somehow that callousness doesn't bleed into family life. And I'm like, no, it does, because while you're being unfeeling, you're going to be unfeeling to the people who are closest to you. You always hurt the one you love. So, but you don't see that, and I'll be interested to see if we see it with this movie.
Yeah, good point. Well, just to throw a few other films out on the raceway or the runway there, you were mentioning, Steve, about um, Pacific Rim, and it's interesting because there's a parody movie somewhat, and in the Lego movies, I've never truly focused on the Lego movies, but I think this movie coming out, I think it's either later this year or early next year, which is uh, Ninjago, the ninja Lego
Lego
movie.
Ninjago, it's already out.
It's
Okay,
Ninjago.
so yeah, that's something that's really interesting to me, and I think it's going to be pretty good. I've seen probably about 3 different trailers of it, and so each being different, fortunately, and seeing the uh, Darth Vader slash Luke Skywalker ideology, where we've got the son and the father, the son trying to deal with the evil father in this film, and then we've got the Pacific Rim type characters. The ninjas are inside those big beasts, mechanical beasts, so that gives a little Pacific Rim. So I think if you look through these films, the Lego movies, you see a lot of those parodies on and on and on, and they were able to really put these things together and make a really decent film in the past. And so I'm kind of actually looking a little bit forward to seeing that film. And
well,
another film,
can I interject here for a second?
Sure.
I will say that this might be surprising to both of you, but I love the Lego movies and I hate Legos. I mean, I never liked Legos as toys, and I wanted nothing to do with them. And I reluctantly saw the first Lego movie because somebody said, "Oh, it's really good," and I'm like, "Oh, please, it's blocks. What are you talking about?" And I went to see it, and I was like, "Oh, it was really funny. It was just so clever in so many ways, and the production values were just off the charts." And then I went and saw the Lego Batman movie, and I'm like, "There's no way that they're going to be able to do as good a job with this. It's a sequel, and we all know how sequels go." No, it was really funny, and it was really. I thought it was awesome. I just loved it, So I too am interested in Lego Ninjago because it's like I wonder if they can pull a trifecta. And
it looks like it to me. Just the banner between the father and son. I saw the trailer where the son wakes up and he's talking to his dad on the phone, and he says, "Who is this?" He says, "Who is this?" He said, "It's your son, Dad." He goes, "Oh, I must have butt dialed you. I didn't want to talk to you." Click. It's like 4 o'clock in the morning. Oops.
That's funny.
The evil mastermind butt down somebody. That was just hilarious. And so, that's about as dirty as I get, ladies and gentlemen. So, I thought that was pretty funny. So I think this is going to live up to, your praise, Karen, and your praise, Steve, of the Lego movie. So I'm looking forward to that. Now, here's a quirky movie that I think everybody should probably take a look at. And the name of the movie is The Shape of Water.
Oh, yeah.
Karen had mentioned in her film where the young woman marries, she's blind and she marries someone, and what transpires in that situation. But here's a movie where there's this scientific factory, warehouse, or whatever, and where they're doing all these experiments, and there's something, the cleaning people do the cleaning up, spilled this, spilled that. Well, one of the cleaning ladies, although she can't speak, she can hear, but she can't talk, comes across this creature that's being held in a tank. Well, the tank, it can't hear her, but she relates to it because it goes on that premise of enclosed, they still have a way to communicate. And I think I'm kind of thrilled to see where that goes. But wanted to get back to some of the movies that I was talking about. Like I mentioned earlier that The Foreigner is with Jackie Chan. Oh my God. Here's a situation where Jackie Chan, he's still doing these action movies at 63, guys. And he's just still doing a wonderful job. And in this film, the premise is he's a businessman, and he takes his daughter to school, and the terrorist bomb blows and kills his daughter. And he just wants to know who did it. And so he goes to the government officials, and he says, you know, I know you know who did it. Just tell me who did it. And what transpires after that is just amazing and full of Jackie Chan. And you know, Jackie Chan's movies, a lot of them have a little bit of whimsy. I don't think there's any whimsy in this one. This is going to be pure, unadulterated. You know, I need some information. I need it now.
He's very angry.
Or you're gonna feel my wrath, and it's gonna be worse than you think it is. So I'm really looking forward to that one. And then there's one with what is Fassbender's first name?
Michael.
Michael Fassbender.
Michael Fassbender. Oh my God, this movie looks creepy. And yes, I love detective films and I love thrillers. And this is all that plus a little bit of Friday the 13th little Halloween thing going on.
What movie is this? I didn't hear.
It's The Snowman.
Oh, that just looks too creepy. I can't do that one.
It looks like
I can do that one. It's a detective thriller with a little bit of horror attached to it. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that one. And then American Assassin. Okay, it's one thing when you have this, your persona is such that you can be recruited to be an assassin for the government or whatever. But it's worse when part of that level of essence really only comes to you or comes to the forefront because of a tragedy that happened in your life. And so the assassin here is coming from a tragic event that propels him into becoming the best assassin he could ever be, and hopes that one day he comes across the epitome or the source of his angst, his anger, and then they got to find him because they got to get him too now. He's too powerful. So this movie is going to be really, really good, I think. And lastly, this was my guilty pleasure. There's a movie came out recent past, and it's a quirky movie, and it's kind of a mix of American / English secret agents and spies. It's The Kingsman. Now, The Kingsman was
that is a guilty pleasure.
It is a guilty pleasure because it was quirky. It was so quirky and over the top. I loved it. Well, they have a sequel, and now they're combining the American Kingsman and the British Kingsman in order to deal with those who that destroyed the Kingman's lair in England, and the new mission that they've got that combines the two Kingsman, quote unquote, tribes / cliques / whatever you want to call it, groups. And
Don't you think the American group should be called the Colonial Men?
No. Okay, I'm gonna sit here for a second and think about it. Nope.
No.
No, I don't. But at the same time, I get your point, though.
Oh,
that's a very
really?
Good point.
Awesome. Okay.
It's a very good point. Did we want to get away from that tyranny in the first place?
We did. That's what I'm thinking.
And then they tried to stuff it down our throats back in 1812 again.
I know.
And guess what? We weren't having it. We got it done. When they said get her done, we did.
Yeah, we kind of sort of
pushed them right back to the ocean, baby.
Yeah.
Out of here. But this is one of those situations where they're working together, so they can still be the Kingsmen. I mean, let's think about it in film, Karen. We talked about this on our show. The British invasion didn't just happen with the Beatles.
No, it definitely happened in the movies.
So we've had a lot of British actors. We've been talking about this a lot. Well, okay.
Well, yeah, so, I mean, there aren't any more American actors.
It's just this one more. I think Shannon. What is his name? Tatum. Channing Tatum.
Channing Tatum.
Channing Tatum. I think he's the only one left.
Easy. And you can't even get his name out.
Right, because one of my favorite American actors is Gerald. You said his name. What is it? Gerald.
Gerard Butler.
Gerald Butler. He's one of my favorite American actors who's from Great Britain.
Yeah, well, there you go.
I mean, when Olympus was falling, he thought he'd be American. Nope, he's a Brit.
He's a Brit. Well, aren't they all?
And then when it went to England, he pretended to be American so we wouldn't feel bad. But he's a Brit.
I love that about him.
I do. Idris Elba, love that about him. He's a Brit. You were talking about Pacific Rim. The first movie was Idris Elba. He was a Brit.
Yeah, well.
So yeah, all the American actors actually are British.
Right.
And all the critics like us who are actually talking about the actors, we're Yugoslavian. But that's beside the point. All of this to say, it doesn't matter. If the film is good, we like the film, no matter who's acting in it. So,
well, I've got a question to posit to the group.
Sure, go for it.
Okay. 2016, I remember in one of our shows, one of our archive shows, we talked about the quality of movies in 2016. And I believe our general assessment was that 2016 was a very good year for film.
Right.
Now we're in 2017, and Hollywood box office has had some major issues. The summer was a total bust if you look at box office returns. And we've got like a slew of movies, it appears, coming out in the fall that are worthy of watching. And we've got an inkling of what's coming out in 2018. Now, the other thing is that Hollywood movies are competing are really have an onslaught from cable, from television, from Netflix, from Amazon, from in-house studios for Netflix and Amazon. So Hollywood movies are being challenged for viewership in ways that have not been contemplated before, to the point where people now say they sort of grade movies on, yes, I really need to go to the movies to see that, or no, I can wait for video, or even worse, that's a stick movie, which is code for I'll just wait for that to become available on Amazon or Netflix, and I'll run it through my Amazon stick, but I can wait until then, which is like the last thing Hollywood wants to hear. So all of that introduction to say to you guys, what do you think the rest of 2017 is going to look like compared to the very good movie year we had in 2016? And what do you think 2018 might improve on 2017?
Well, with that buildup of information, I think, in my opinion anyway, I look to the films of the future, current and future films, to really be on the up and up as far as viewership. Problem with Hollywood situation is, I think truthfully, because of the high prices in theaters, theaters are having a hard time showing the films because people are not willing to pay the exorbitant prices to go. But then I thought about it, and I think it's more the type of films that would bring people back to the theater. And I think we are missing, and we talked about this too briefly, we're missing that true epic that would bring us back to the theater. One of the things about Lord of the Rings, the trilogy, and even The Hobbit, was that when we were watching these films, or when they were talking about these films and promoting these films, they were building us up for this epic type film. And one of the things that made me excited about it was to be able to see it in a big screen. Now, obviously, at that point, I had a big screen TV, or I should say a little bit slightly under big screen TV, but big enough to where I would be just happy to see that kind of thing on the screen. But the problem in my mind was, if this is going to truly be the epic, if the things that I had seen prior, things I had read about it, had pumped me up so much that I wanted to see it on the big screen. We're not getting a lot of advertising like that to get us back to the theater and see something on a big screen. Now, I thought I paid a lot of money to see those films that I mentioned a moment ago on the big screen, but here's the thing, I wasn't disappointed. So Star Wars 2, one of those epic type films that get you to go to the movies to see those things, and even giving Stevens a little credence with the Godzilla movies and the King Kong type movies. Some of those movies, if you know you're going to get, or if you have an idea that you're going to get this epic type film or this larger than life film that's going to give you all this miraculous, like in King Kong's case, jungle or this epic city from a different perspective, as you're either the Godzilla looking down or people looking up. Those films and a lot of the Marvel films, I'd actually go and pay to the theater to go see those films. That's part of the problem. You're not necessarily going to do that on a romantic film.
Mm-hmm.
Idris Elba and Kate Winslet have a film coming out soon.
No, it's already out.
Okay, well, here's my point. With that film, although I love the actors, and the trailers that I've seen make me think I can even like the plot a little bit, it's not going to drive me to the theater to see it. In my mind, just like you alluded to, that's when I'll wait for until it streams.
Right. Because
A, we have the capability anymore, and B, because it's not that epic that's going to send me to the theater to see it. I do like big epic films, and one of my favorite epic films, which came out way before I was even very old enough to truly see it originally, was that Gregory Peck film, Big Country. That's an epic film. Giant, that's an epic film. Those are films that make sense to go see in a big screen. I mean, like a big screen, big screen theater or an IMAX theater. And a lot of films that they want to see, they want you to see in an IMAX that is either 2D or 3D films in the big IMAX theaters. You know, I was in a small IMAX theater looking at something that was just a small in comparison to those epic films, and I enjoyed it immensely. So here's the thing. If we could get more epic type films, more Star Wars type films, more Avengers Civil War type films, those are films that are going to drive the box office. A lot of the romantic films are not, and the problem is there's this big mix. Not saying that those films aren't worthy, but they're not the films that people tend to go see in that anymore, especially in that realm. Now, as far as films coming out, I'm excited for a lot of films. We've only touched on a few of those films, and I'm excited about a lot of other films too that are coming out. And it's making me explore some of them, getting back to the horror side that I really have kind of shied away from and pushed to the side. So yeah, I'm excited for 2017, the rest of it. The current part that you guys keep reminding me that the movies are already out. Just I haven't had the ability to see them yet, but I'm excited, and I'll probably spend a little money on those epic type films or films that I think will make more sense for me to see it on the big screen where I'm a little overwhelmed and I want to be. And 2018 really looked good to me so far.
Real quick, I just wanted to, I pulled up the highest grossing films from 2016 and the highest grossing films from 2017 so far. And it's interesting that you say that the romantic is not the one that really like would draw you in. Because,
well, I meant draw me into the theater.
For you.
No, I mean into the theater, not draw me in.
Right, into the theater. Last year we had last year the highest grossing movie for the year was Captain America: Civil War. When you're talking about an epic, this was the next chapter.
That would qualify.
This was the next chapter in a movie's in a grouping, because Captain America: Civil War was more like an Avengers movie, even though it was strictly based around. It had 1.1. It was 1.1 billion for its grossing worldwide.
Wow.
Follow that up with Rogue One, which was 1 billion. Finding Dory, which was 1 billion.
Oh,
and
seriously?
Zootopia, which was 1 billion. And then The Jungle Book coming in at 966 million. That is 5 Disney movies in the top 5.
Yep.
Wow.
So that's a big one. It's a big boom for Disney. Two, it's the Jungle Book has a nostalgia factor that goes for it. Zootopia is something that people can do with the kids, so that makes it. And Finding Dory, they spaced everything out like almost perfectly to be able to get to where you could get a family outing into these movies. Rogue One is not really. I mean, as much as kids, Star Wars and everything. It's not something you take little kids to because they honestly don't understand what's going on. And Captain America Civil War is, hit or miss with certain audiences and stuff like that. When you look at 2017 and you go to the top 5, there's Beauty and the Beast, which is number 1, which is that romantic movie that we're talking about that, may have a hard time bringing people in, but it's nostalgic and it's Disney. This was they've been doing these live action and they're actually
versions
good.
of the fairy tales.
Yeah, and they're actually doing good jobs with what they do. And of course, Beauty and the Beast is one of the biggest favorites among people that have ever watched, the Disney movies and everything like that. Followed up, that was 1.26 billion.
Wow.
Followed up closely with what we're talking about epics, with The Fate of the Furious. A movie that a literal movie franchise that has completely run its course, and has gone off the rails from the original premise, but is still out big numbers, and people are wanting to go see it because. And I had a conversation with the Fate of the Furious, and they understand that they can get a little loose and crazy because they don't have a real true premise, like
they also lost Paul Walker.
The second, third.
I was going to say that. I was going to say losing Paul Walker. They want to see how it was going to be like after he's gone.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly. And also, the Furious, the Furious franchise does a good job of like, all right, here's what we got. We got cars. We got a little bit of fan service with exotic locations, the way people are dressed. Things like that. You've got all these stars that have an action-ness to them, while all still being diverse in their own ways. And your premise is family. Your premise is always family. And people can, even though you have all these other things that are, in some ways more masculine, which is starting to change, through time right now. Family aspect gives everyone it's a full circle of people believing in family and things like that. So you can take not young kids, but your teenagers and stuff like that to it, and everybody can enjoy it. At third with 1 billion was Despicable Me,
another family movie.
Coming in at fourth. Now we have a significant kind of drop off where it's 879 million with Spider-Man Homecoming. And then for the first time ever, at number 5, a non-Hollywood film is listed on the worldwide top 100 box office, and that was called Wolf Warriors 2, which is a Chinese film. And it was at 879 million.
Wow.
And then followed by Guardians of the Galaxy, Wonder Woman, Pirates of the Caribbean, Logan, and It. And
well, we also want to take in consideration that's the first 3 quarters of the year. We still got a quarter of the year left.
Right, and we know Star Wars is going to blow that out of the water.
Yep.
Right. But
let's just be frank.
Also interesting is that those movies that you mentioned, Steve, I mean, that out of the top 5, none of them were released in the summer, which is like a huge, that's like a huge, we need to make our money. I mean, summer for Hollywood is like Black Friday for retail. You make most of your money during that period. And if you don't make most of your money during that period, you're screwed for the whole year. And Hollywood just did not come with it.
Despicable Me came out in June.
Okay, then that was the only one.
And that's the only one, and that was number 3.
Right, and that was number 3.
So
and Despicable Me did what it was supposed to, but the problem is the Dark Tower didn't do what it was supposed to do.
Right.
And there were some other movies that came out that just didn't do what they were supposed to do. So it was like, but Hollywood, I would just say from my standpoint, I think Hollywood is just, not only is it facing significant competition, it's not doing enough to address the competition, because you're fighting not only for eyeballs, you're fighting comfort. People are comfortable in their homes, and it's not just because the home is there. It's because the world is a chaotic, more dangerous place than it was previously. And so it's easier to opt to just be in your home where you have your tablet or your phone nearby. You can talk on the phone without somebody throwing shade, and you can get your popcorn and your drinks or whatever. And as comfortable as movie theaters try to make it, it's never going to be your living room. So you're not only fighting, well, should I spend the money to see this thing because there's something from a production value that I should only see on a big screen? You're not only fighting that value battle, you're also fighting the battle of, I'll just stay home because I don't have to fight the traffic because congestion is so bad. And I don't have to listen to somebody else, talking on their cell phone or the light from somebody else texting. I don't have to deal with all that. I can just put my feet up. I can and just do what I want and watch my movie.
I completely agree with that. And concessions are out of control.
Oh yeah, well that was the other thing I was going to mention. That's what I mean by not responding to the threat at hand. Hollywood needs to make some change, not just Hollywood, but theater owners. And they're trying to make some changes, but they're not doing enough. They're not doing enough to say, this is where you need to be. This is essential. We're essential. And no, they're not. I am happy to wait 6 weeks. I don't give a crap if Verizon has a movie 28 days. I will wait the 28 days because I am not buying a movie on demand from Verizon. I will wait for it to show up on Netflix. I got no problem with that. I can be patient. And that's what Hollywood needs to address.
One of the cool things about theaters, just talking about what they're trying to do, is, and it's kind of a semi-resurgence, is having the theaters where you actually can sit there and actually have a meal as opposed to just popcorn. And you notice that you're not getting as many of the interruptions because everybody's eating. And so that in itself has become a little bit better. You have waiters and waitresses now that are working at theaters because they're taking food orders. And then they get all the food orders down for the most part, and then the film starts playing. I think it's kind of cool. I've been to a few of those recent past, and I really enjoyed it. And it made me think in my head initially that I would go back and do that. But again, I won't go back and do it until there's a situation not too different than Karen waiting the 6 weeks. But once they get that epic, I'm there.
That makes a lot of sense. I've been to one too, and they're awesome.
They are. They're really cool. And it's good food. It's not bad food. It's good food.
Well, that was going to be my question, because you know what a foodie I am. I'm like, unless it's like, it better be some damn good food, because I'm not paying $20 for a movie ticket. And yeah, they're serving dinner as some sort of like value added, but it's crappy food. No, because I mean, it's like you're paying you can pay $6 for popcorn, and it's crappy popcorn. They're still not giving you real butter. It's still, I mean, I don't even know if the salt's real. And you're paying $6 for popcorn that cost them 20 cents to make. Seriously?
Yeah, it's literally popcorn, because it's really not butter, it's pop syrup that's
yeah, exactly. God knows what's in that stuff. FD yellow number 85.
Yeah, I used to live in Illinois, and there's in Westmont area, there's a theater out there that is one of those theaters where you can actually have dinner. And we went out there because we used to live there, and it was one of those nostalgic visits. And we ended up watching a movie, and I totally enjoyed it and enjoyed the food. The food was good. It wasn't. I guess if I was to put it on a scale from 1 to 10, the food was like a 7, 8. So I was like, hey, this isn't bad for this kind of thing. So I would do that again, and I have done it. I've done it in Illinois and Indiana. So yeah, I like that kind of thing. But again, I'm not going to do it for a movie unless I think it's going to give me this big, beautiful screen, because I'm going to see all this beauty, aesthetic beauty in front of me. You know,
Right.
whether it be a slasher movie, whether it be a action film, whether it be a romantic comedy, but it's going to have to be one of epic proportion that I'm going to even pay attention to see that. Or it's a tragic romance. I like those. So that true drama uh, uh, that unfolds and into something even much bigger than itself. Yeah, I'm going to probably go see that at a theater and actually pay the money. But that's sadly, and that's the problem, it's going to be rare.
Well, and I'll amend one of my students. They said that the Hollywood theater managers weren't, if I said they weren't doing anything, that's not true. They are doing some things. My assessment is that it's not quite enough. One of the things that they're doing, which is interesting, or some theater chains are doing, or something called, like, where they're offering like first run movies at a really low price. Like for instance, in Illinois, there was $5 Tuesdays for a particular chain. That was, and like something like that is awesome for families, because like my brother was able to take most of his family to see Captain America Civil War, because we did it on a $5 Tuesday. And so everybody could go. But when movies are $10 at a minimum during the matinee, mind you, and you have a large family, that's $50 for a movie ticket, and that's not counting popcorn.
Right.
So now you're looking at like $100 to go to a movie. That's not doable for a lot of families, and even with $5 Tuesdays, you're still looking at, significant amounts of money for concessions. I mean, and when I go to movies, I don't buy concessions. I don't buy the popcorn. I'm not wasting money on that crap. And I'm not buying their pop, and I'm not buying their candy. I'm not buying that because it's completely overpriced. So I just make sure I'm well fed before I go, because I'm not buying that stuff.
Hey, Karen, can I ask you a serious question for a moment?
Sure.
You're not buying that stuff?
I'm not buying that stuff.
Okay. Karen,
in case you were wondering,
you have a rant sometimes, but this one was about you ain't buying that stuff. I like that, because it's like those gummy bears. No. M&M's. What, Mars? No.
Yeah, that's an NO on the gummy bears for sure.
No, out of there. Out of there. The Twisters. What?
Yes, get out, Twisters.
And popcorn. Oh my God. What's that yellow? That's not butter. That can't be butter. That's not butter.
Yeah, that's not butter. I don't know what that stuff
which is also a very good movie, by the way. And I'm trying to tell my good acquaintances at my gig that they should see this movie, Butter. And they say, well, what's it about? I go, butter.
It's about butter.
And then they say, well, who? And then they, with the wrinkled face, say, well, who's in it? And I said, Gardner and what's our guy? What's Logan? What's his name? Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman's in. They go, wait a minute, Hugh Jackman and Jennifer Garner is in it. Wait, what? And it's about butter. It's about butter. So after this weekend, we'll see if these people have actually seen this film. But anyway, but yeah. So it looks like, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like there's a lot of films out there that are worth seeing and worth your time and effort and investment into seeing. So definitely don't hesitate to see these films that we've mentioned. And of course, if you don't remember the films that we mentioned, just hit us up again on our archive at our YouTube channel, A Real Point of View, and just kind of pace through to find some of the films that we've talked about, and get a chance to see these films out there. There's so many different vehicles that we alluded to indirectly today, that you can see these films. And a lot of people out there are investing in some of those vehicles, like the Netflix and the Amazon and all that stuff. So yeah, there's vehicles. Even like your local library, you'd be surprised how many new DVDs that they get in that are free to watch.
Yeah. Well,
And
your tax dollars are paid for them, Lord knows.
Exactly. And so with that being said, and these are first run films, or the like. And I did a lot of video watching through the library. And is where, this show kind of began, with a lot of the viewing of these films in the library. And don't hesitate to see older films too. You'd be surprised. There's a wealth of films out there. And even with the past 10 years, some really, really good films. So just wanted to kind of throw that out there. So in my book, another movie I wanted to see that I didn't mention, that I know is already out, so you don't have to tell me. I know. The movie's Dunkirk. I really want to see that film. I'm a kind of a history, I won't say history buff, but a history, what's the word I want to say, enthusiast. And military history for one. My dad was in the Air Force, and he really watched a lot of military films, even from the Civil War up through, what was ever present, Vietnam, for example, films that talked about those times and those eras, biopics and also historical footage. And, I think Dunkirk probably would have been up his alley. And so I'm going to give that a try myself. And maybe in the midst of our conversations, I'll let you know what I think. But also let us know what you think about films and that you're watching, that we should be watching, that you think we should talk about on our show. Another thing I wanted to do just briefly is I have a good acquaintance out there. Her name is Nicole Franklin, and she is a writer, producer. She does everything when it comes to film. And she put together this film called Chapter 7. And so this film is being shopped around and being viewed at different festivals around the country. So if you ever hear Chapter 7 is being at a film festival or in a local theater, give it a shot. She's worked really hard on the film, and she's getting a lot of buzz on this movie about Chapter 7 because, a lot of times when we talk about, well, Chapter 7 deals with discrimination in the workplace.
Oh, I was getting ready to ask you, what's it about?
Yeah, discrimination in the workplace. And in many films that deal with this scenario, majority of those films deal with a boss or a coworker who is a male-dominated person, either discriminating against or harassing someone of lesser stature than themselves, or that kind of thing. Well, in this movie, they've reversed the roles. The person who is being the aggressor is a woman, and she's the boss. And so they've taken a different aspect and put it together. And I've seen a few of the trailers, and it looks really good, guys. So Nicole Franklin, if you want to take a look, just look up Nicole Franklin online and look up Chapter 7, and you should be able to see a trailer. There are a few of the trailers out there, since we're talking about trailers today somewhat. And so give her a shot. Chapter 7, Nicole Franklin. Big ups to Nicole. Good job. I love the trailer, so I can't wait to see the actual full film. So just wanted to give her a shout out.
Yeah, Chapter 7 refers to Title 7 of the Civil Rights Act, which deals with workplace discrimination. That's why it's called Chapter 7.
Indeed. Thank you, Karen. Appreciate that. And so, like I said, the trailers, she's done a pretty good job. One of the trailers I saw surprised me totally, so maybe go, whoa, what started that? I need to see that. I want to know what brought that on, man, because that's pretty tough. And she's an aspiring indie filmmaker who's made a few films and some important films, especially documentary films that I've had a chance to see. And so I'm a fan. So just wanted to give her a shout out.
Awesome.
And another shout out got to think about that one for a second. There's a movie out there called Mounds Bayou. It's about a small town that was originated and developed during the, I think it's the 1800s, by two former slaves. And they put together this town, and the town became a very big deal, and even had its own commerce, own banks, all those wonderful things that any community has. But it was a community that thrived early on in its existence, and now it's trying to have a resurgence. And so the one of the producers of the film is John Ross out of Chicago, and so another big up for him, another independent filmmaker out there trying to do their thing. And this movie was nominated for an Emmy. So
Oh, wow.
You want to go and see Mound Bayou if you want to see that. You can actually see it online. If you go under Mound Bayou and just put in John Ross's name, it'll bring up the website, and you can actually view the video on that website.
Awesome.
That's great.
Okay, so very good stuff. And look out for my interview with John Ross in the near future. So any other films out there, you guys, that you think our audience should look at or give a chance to see? We didn't really talk about Thor.
I mentioned it.
Yeah, I was saying we really didn't talk about it much. I think that's a good movie, Karen. I'm looking forward to that one too. Marvel's doing a really good job, even with the separate movies of the different heroes that are Avengers and the movies that they're putting together, like the Civil War with the Avengers. And so we're getting these Thor off to the side here. We got Black Panther off to the side there. And, you know, there's going to be a lot of other movies coming out. So I'm just really excited about Marvel, the Marvel Universe. But we didn't give any credence to the DC Universe.
Because Marvel's kicking DC's butt.
It is, but you know what? I was just going to say Wonder Woman was pretty good.
Yes, Wonder Woman was pretty good. But Justice League doesn't look extraordinarily compelling. And DC has to keep hitting it out the park. Wonder Woman was a good start, but Justice League needs to be a grand slam. It doesn't look like a grand slam so far.
When Justice League comes out, I feel like, because there'll be different videos and stuff that we can watch going on, I'm going to go see it. So when I come back, I can relay the information of yay or nay to you guys. So y'all don't have to pressure yourselves into going to take that leap.
Okay.
Thank you for your sacrifice.
I was going to kind of wait anyway. You know, it's funny. And I'm going to relay this to a commercial I saw as a child. And it was the Aqua Velva Man commercial, which was a shaving cream commercial and a aftershave commercial.
Where are you going with this? Okay.
Okay, in one of the videos, the Aqua Velva Man was just supposed to be this swank, sexy guy, and he gets fouled with this water. He still holds up. Well, they're doing that in the Justice League commercial for Aquaman. They're going to throw a whole bunch of big water at him. So I want to see if that's going to play well, because so far that's the only exciting thing that I've seen in the trailer.
Wow.
And it reminded me of the Aqua Velva Man. And as Aqua being the relative term here, you know. So I'm hoping it's much better than the Aqua Velva Man. In fact, I even hope it's better than the Old Spice guy too. So
sounds like a Gregor rant to me.
Well, it is. Well, Thor can have his Ragnarok. I have my Gregor rant. That's right now. So Steve, yeah, save me, save Karen D.
Oh, please save me.
Save us, so you know that we don't have to, you know, deal with that situation.
I don't want this to turn into another Fantastic Four. That's all I have to say.
Oh. And why they use Fantastic? They just could have called them before.
Yeah.
And even that would have been too much.
Yes.
Because it was 4 people thinking in one mind. That's how bad that was. So,
yes.
And it was the mind of the director, obviously. Yeah. Okay, I'm stopping now. I'm starting to, you know, get a little wax on, wax off now to get me back where I need to be.
Starting to.
You know. You know, get me back. You know, Karate Kid.
We might want to wrap up here.
Okay, with that said, hey,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, let's get out of here. We've taken up a lot of your time. We appreciate the fact that you're
Before we wax off our
watching
audience.
yeah, that you're watching and probably watching kind of leaning toward the bed there. So want to thank you for listening to us here at A Real Point of View. Check out some of the movies that we've mentioned and let us know what you think. And then we'll all hopefully come back here together and hear what Steve has to say about the Justice League. Might only be like 6 words, but okay, we'll listen to it. All 6 words.
It could be
Humdinger.
bad.
Could be a humdinger. Let's hope so.
Could be a humdinger.
Let's hope so. Let's hope it's at least that.
Yeah, because remember, you can't recommend any bad movies.
Right.
Never, ever, ever.
Yeah.
Right. All he can tell, and he's just reporting. He's not necessarily recommending.
That's true.
So,
fair enough.
So he gets a little pass there. So,
that's true.
So okay.
If it's really bad, spoiler warning.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
And we will really be thanking you.
All right, you guys. Well, thanks again for listening to us here on A Real Point of View. Come to our YouTube channel. Thank you, and check out some of our archived videos and leave us some comments and some suggestions on films that you think you'd like us to look at, especially if you've seen it and you really enjoyed it, so that we can recommend it to other people as well. So thanks again for listening to A Real Point of View. We're out of here. You guys have a nice night and get out there and see a good movie. Take care, ladies and gentlemen.
See ya.